A much better open for the back-to-back weeks out at Shaw Tin in Hong Kong. An okay week last week. A lot of winners, but really nothing surprising hitting the board. Kind of to form last week, Tom. Wouldn't you say?
Very, very formful.
Yeah, I agree.
Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, the prices still were pretty good. I mean, relatively speaking, and it's nice when you got a 4-to-1 shot that's the favorite.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't
and runs
doesn't hurt.
And it runs to form, so I mean that's not awful.
No,
it's better than a 1-to-9 shot.
That doesn't run the form, and then you loaded everything up around him, and he started off at. He left the gate at Charlestown at 2-to-1 and crossed the finish line at 1-to-9 and just beat at the wire. Yeah, I've known that feeling way too many times. What's the significance of this week at Shaw Tin? 2 big Group 1s that we'll talk about at the back end of our picks today, but what's the big deal?
Big deal is that the foreign horses can run in these races. So they've attracted from Australia, Japan, Dubai. So they're coming in from all over in France. And the money's good. So that always is an incentive. And frankly, the worldwide jockeys show up too.
Well, money is an incentive for the horses. For the trainers, the owners, and of course, the jockeys.
The other thing too is on Wednesday night at Happy Valley, they had the Jockeys Championship. So they invite jockeys from all over the world to participate in a challenge, So it's kind of a nice way to get the thing going. So they have those 2 events.
Who turned out to be the jockey of the of Happy Valley?
Mikel Barcelona was the winner. I think he had 2 winners.
Not bad.
In among those, yeah. Well, he's up against everybody like Ryan Moore and Holly Doyle to Rachel King. So they come in from all over the place.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the Hong Kong stats, at least for Shaw Tin, and Ryan Moore 0 for 11. So maybe he's the proverbial gambler's fallacy. Hopefully we don't go 0 for 11 tonight at Charlestown. Free picks for guaranteed tip sheet. You'll find them in the link in the description on YouTube. Kindly use that so they know where it is you're coming from, provided, of course, they don't get snowed out. I know there's a lot of snow going on in the East Coast, so make sure you check that out. Sometime after the show, before the racing gets started tomorrow, we'll post our picks along with the replays of the show. Sunday. Well, tomorrow, sometime between the time they run. I'll post the,
Well, yeah, it's Sunday there. It's Saturday for us.
Overnight. Yeah, I put the times in the races, so we'll talk about that. But you'll find all of our commentary along with the race replay in the description on YouTube. We will timestamp every race so you can watch them in full or individually, depending upon your favorite flavors. You can do it your way. We're like, who's that? Do it your way. Was that McDonald's or Burger King? I forget, Tom, but whatever one it was, that's what we're like. And then finally, we're going to get to the racing, starting in race number 4, the Longines, Hong Kong VASE, which will be 1:10 a.m. Eastern between Saturday and Sunday morning Eastern time in the United States. All of the racing, unlike last week, will be on the turf. This is a Group 1. It's 2,400 meters. If we head on over to our view of the track, 2,400 meters. We'll start back here. We'll come around 2 turns and come back to the finish line. Thomas, that long race, what sort of horse are you looking for?
Well, I picked a mixture. I've got a couple one that should be up front and a couple that are going to be probably a little bit farther back, and one that'll be a dead closer.
All right, so you touching a little bit of everything we see here. Well, according to this race shape that you can find on the Hong Kong Jockey Club, hkjc.com website, it does look like most of these horses want to be middle forward, which could favor horses that come from the back part, especially on these long races, as long as the fractions aren't too crazy. If I remember last week, and I can't remember really back that far, to be honest with you. I do recall horses from the middle of the pack seemingly doing the best. Was that your recollection too?
My recollection is I didn't see any dead closers. They were all mid-pack types, but it's part of it too is that we're this is kind of a different level of horse than we were doing last week. So you have to take that information. Yes, there's bias, but there's horses and then there's horses.
Mm-hmm. Talent overcomes bias. So who's the most talented for you?
I'm going to start with number 4, Dubai Honor as my top choice. He prepped on all weather at Newcastle, ran second. He lost in Germany time before to Fantastic Moon, who ran in the Japan Cup. Didn't do much, but that's okay. He's won this distance 6 times, only won once, but he looks like he's back in form. And it looks, he did that at St. Cloud in that one race that he won. And that's, I think, a bit of a challenging track, to say the least. But he placed in 3 other races. So, he's one of those that's been up against the good ones and has had some strong efforts and then hasn't. But I think coming off that all-weather run is really positive, and I'm going to give it a shot. And I think we'll get a nice price on this one. I'm going to go to number 13, Stellenbosch. She's the dead closer of a dead closer. I mean, she is going to literally be dead last. And with that, she drew the outside, number 13. I don't think that matters for her because they're just going to tuck her in and let her come at the end. She's run 4 times this season. She's got a win. She's got a couple seconds and a third. That was in her last effort. Only her second try at this distance. So that's a little bit of an interest. But the jockey is a former Hong Kong champion jockey. So he knows his way around Shah-10. And she's going to need a little room and some racing luck. And I think she'll be flying. Finally, I'm going to take number 3, Luxembourg. He's 5 now. Only one race this year was at Epsom at this distance. He's had okay efforts. He runs against decent ones. Ran the Breeders' Cup, ran 6th, which was a good effort. He ran in the 2,000-meter race last year, which we'll get to later, and ran 2nd in that race. And I think they're dodging Romantic Warrior for obvious reasons. And run here. And Aidan O'Brien, and Ryan Moore. Well, we'll see what Ryan Moore can get off the schneid.
Make that go. Right? All right. I'm going to go, a little different path. We agree on one horse, but I'm going to start with the one horse without a fight. I think this one, Thomas, is going to be coming the best of them all at the end, and I don't think he's going to be all that far off the pace against this group. Number 7, Pradaria. That's my second choice. The last 2 times this horse made a second start after a layoff, they both ended up in the same place. The winners in closure. See if we can make it 3 for 3. The one we do agree on is the horse on the outside there, the Buffalo Girl, Stellenbosch. It's another one that shows plenty of improvement in the second off the sidelines, just like today. And then finally, I'm going to go with one I really wanted to rank a little bit higher. That's the 5 horse, Irisine. This one, he's run at the distance 12 times, 8 wins, 2nd, 3rd. The comments suggest he prefers something given the track, although the record on the good is 15-7, 2-3. So I was kind of miffed by that comment, but I went ahead and adjusted my selection on that accord. Sounds like you had something to say there.
Yeah, I like the form of the horse, but his record on the good to firm is less than stellar.
Yeah, it was interesting to me, but we'll see. All right, race number, we're going to go to the next one. That's going to be race number 5. So let me close this out here. Bring up race number 5. This one is the Longines Hong Kong Sprint, another Group 1. So it's a big day of group racing. This time around, they're going to go 1,200 meters on the course. So 1,200 meters, they'll start right about here. They'll find their way around the track. One turn, sort of, I mean, it would be a sprint. I think, what is it, about 6 furlongs in our world, Thomas? So
it is 6 furlongs, and these are some of the better sprinters in the world.
So you expect the horses that can get up front can stay there?
No.
No. Well, here's the two that are going to be up
They
front.
don't. They generally don't stay there.
Well, it's a pretty.
But you know they'll be. I think they'll be closer to the lead. I mean, again with that, I didn't see a lot of speed in the race personally, except for California Spangle, and that horse can steal the front end. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does look like it's going to be pretty packed all the way around the track, and that's usually the case with 6 furlong races. So
sprinters.
It's usually not a big gap from worst to first. So who will be first at the end?
Start with number 1, Cayenne's Rising. Kind of hard to go past that one.
Yeah, that was 1
set the track record last time out, and it was definitely a gem race. That record had stood for over about 20 years. So it's won 7 in a row, 10 career starts, has won 8 and ran second twice. He prefers to sit and wait and fly at the end. He, won by 3 lengths last time. It's pretty good. And that man who's aboard him, who really is high on this horse, and they interviewed him, and he just thinks it's the best. And this is a horse that I would not be surprised if they run it in the Everest, which is the richest 6 furlong race in the world next year or next fall, or in case of spring in Australia. But he's quick. I'm going to go with 8, Toshin Macau is my next choice. After the layoff, he returned in September to win, coming from the 17th post. It was a Group 2. And then he ran a strong second to one of the horses in here, and they went 107 in the race. That was Lugar. You may like, but I'm not going to put it in. He's 2 good efforts. I think he's primed for a really good run here. And I think they brought him in here because he's in top form. And finally, I am going to take the speed of the race, in my opinion, which is number 2, California Spangle. If he gets a lone lead, as I said, he'll be tough. Some disadvantages with him is he hasn't won since Dubai, and that was a straightaway 6 furlong race. His last effort was not great, but he's been in the money. He draws a 2, which I think helps. And let's see what he can do.
I think it's kind of hard to go against a horse when you look over here. Last 6 runs, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Lifetime, as you mentioned, Tom, 10 races, 8 wins, 2 seconds, not too far off the wins there either. I'm going to go a little bit different, though, after that. We both agree at the top, and then we part and go our separate ways. I'm going to go with Satano Reve as my second choice. Number 9, the only time that this horse made 3 starts after a layoff. On that third, the classic handicap angle, the horse came home first. So another one that loves this distance, 8 times out, 6 of them crossing the finish line and taking the checkered flag. Starlust, the 7 horse. Ryan Moore, maybe he breaks the O on this one here. I think you can't overlook that last race, how fast that horse ran. He's stretching out a little bit today, a little bit longer, but still pretty quick. And then finally, number 12, Helios Express. That's my final choice in here. This horse has never been off the board at the distance, and in the money, 10 of 11, on a good track and at the track. So likes the distance, likes the footing. I'm probably going to like the odds. Those are my top 4 for race number 5. Race 6, we're going to do 6, 7, and 8 for Hong Kong this week. The 6th race is the Gin and Tonic versus Gin and Tonic, I guess, over there. I don't know. Is it a drink or a person?
No, that's the name of it. It's the name of a horse.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes a difference. All right, well, taking the gin and turning it to Jim. I guess the men sit on Jim in that case. This one is going to be 1,800 meters on the turf course again. So this time they'll start way back in that chute. They got plenty of runway to get to that turn. It's still a one-turn route. Tom, do you feel like that gives early position more of a chance, or still another just deadpan no?
I'm going to go with, based on the pace projection, which you're going to pull up, I would say this is going to be a pretty slow race, relatively speaking. So it is a possibility that somebody up front could steal it.
Yeah, you do see here this race is heavily weighted towards the backside. So reasonable fractions, and maybe you can get away with being on that front and coming home the winner. All right, Thomas, who's going to be the winner, whether they come from the front, the middle, or the back, in your view?
Well, I'm going to start with number 10. California Totality is my top choice. And I'm going to toss the last race. He was boxed in, all kinds of trouble. And maybe 2000 was a little too far for him on 2 turns. Maybe he just wants that straightaway and around. And he's done his best running in 1,600 meters. And that was at this level. It was at the lower level. It was a class 4. He now moving into a class 3. His last effort, and he's been okay. He's done okay. I think he will rebound today, and I think that 1-turn type race is more to his liking than the 2 turns. Number 8, Family Jewel, will be my next choice. This horse runs at the end. Got 2 wins and a second out of its last races. It drops back today in distance. And it's done well at this distance, but again at a little lower class level. So, but last effort with a up, he ran second, and in the race he was blocked last time, and he also was forced wide. So, interestingly weird race. And finally, I'm going to take Starmac. Number 4 is my final choice. It's also a late runner. He had a fast pace to run it last time and came up the rail and finished 3rd. But at that race, he also had a crowded start and recovered. But prior to that, he ran 2nd in a dead heat, which was a decent effort for him. And I think good in the money type horse, and I'm going to put him there.
I'm going to start with the sticks, 18 carats. I'm expecting something close to its best in the second start after a layoff. Number 8, Family Jewel. It's the one we agree on, if I remember correctly. I agree with you, Tom. This one's going to be closing. And another that in the second start after a layoff tends to show more than it did in the first. Number 1, Brave Hearts. I don't think there's any question that this horse is in form right now, winning 2 in a row, as you see over here. Question mark for me and probably for everybody else, which might allow for you to get decent odds. So horse is moving up in class. And then finally, I'm going to throw out a bomb in here. Thomas, number 12, Good Luck Babe. That's a long shot that improved enough in its last to stir up some interest and what I think are going to be very high odds, probably 50 to 1 or up, which if it won, I don't care what happens the rest of the day. I will, because when it's over, then you're always worried about the next one, right? That's how it goes. It's never enough. Race number 7, Tom. This one is 1,600 meters. This is the Hong Kong Mile. In case you're wondering, they're going to run a mile. That is, again.
Really? They're going to run a mile?
Yes, 1,600 meters. So they're going to start here. 1,600 meters back here in the chute again. A little bit less of a runway to get to that turn. Still 1 mile all the less. I know in the United States, 1-turn miles tend to act a little bit more like sprints. And as you mentioned, I will bring up the speed map here. I feel like this is another race, although it doesn't look like it here on the screen. But when you're looking at the horse's past performances, I don't really see anybody that really wants to lead, Tom. Did you notice the same thing?
Yeah, I didn't see anybody who wanted to lead. And I think the pace prediction here is for good. I think is fairly accurate based on they could be pretty bunched up.
Yeah, and I think they could be pretty slow too, which is Yeah, it's going to make for an interesting. This would be really a positional race in which jockey gets himself in the best spot to clear, any trouble down the stretch. And which jockey you think is going to get that job done?
I'm going to go and start with number 12, Jantar Mantar. This horse has never been out of the money in its 6 races. It won last time out in a Group 1 at Tokyo, and they ran a mile in 1:32. That's quick. Anywhere, and he won by 2 lengths plus. And the other thing he had going against him in that race, he broke from the 16th post. That's a good run. He's tried longer distances and failed. He's a miler, and he's 3 for 3 at the mile. So I'm going to start with, I think he's really going to be a tough one to beat. Number 14, Ramadan, is my next one. It's a French runner. Originally, but he was purchased for $1.5 million by Hong Kong interests and brought to Hong Kong. Well, he's got an interesting profile because he's got speed, he's got some pace. He likes to be up near the leaders with the leaders. They bought him coming off of a win at Paris Longchamp, and he just got there in time. Is the best way to describe his race. At this distance, he's run 7 times. He's won 5 of them. My big concern with him is Group 1 races. Does not have a great record at that level. So I'm going to put him in because I think he's good enough, but I have a little concern with that. And finally, we take number 1, Soul Rush. My final choice came here last year, closed very strongly and lost to Golden 60. A lot of horses lost to Golden 60 before he was retired. Since that race, he's won twice, ran second once, and ran third once. And one of those races was behind Romantic Warrior, and that was in Japan. He's definitely in form. He drew the outside, but that's where he generally runs from. And one of my comments was, there's no Golden 60 in this race today.
Which is probably thankful for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to start the same place you did. So, of course, I would imagine that a lot of the punters will see the same, and we may not get the best of odds on Jantar Mantar, but you just don't know how good a horse is at a distance until it loses. And, well, you've mentioned, Tom, that this horse hasn't lost at 3 at a mile. I think you can mark this one down as a miler, as you succinctly put it. Number 6, Galaxy Push Patch. Push. Well, it's going to push there too. Anyway, that'll work. This one, yeah, he's going to push his way past the patch. This one does run well, fresh off the bench, like we're going to see today, and specifically at a mile, does great. 13 races, 8 of them winning efforts, 3 of them place efforts, and 1 a show. So if I add up those quickly, 12 out of 13 in the money at a mile, I'd say that one also gets I'm a miler designation. Number 13, Lazat. Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of speed in this race, as we talked about. If speed holds, I think this one gets out front. Time, I think, does maybe comfortably get out front. And if speed can hold, that's helpful. But I think the race shape for this one is going to be, because it's going a little bit longer, gets out to the front, runs reasonable fractions, but just gets run down by 1 or 2 horses at the end and finishes third. And then finally, speaking of 3s, I'm going to go with my final pick for this race. Number 3, Antino. This one's never been off the board at the distance either. And it looks like footing doesn't really matter to this horse. So I like those horses that show that they can run on any kind of footing. They can run any kind of style, a lot of versatility in a race where things could be very tight. That versatility could come in very handy. Final race for you and me today is the longest I don't know how to pronounce that word, but longest Hong Kong Cup. Before we do that one, Thomas, what's on tap for next Foreign Friday?
Probably Australia.
Now we're going to go to the land down under, where they hang by their feet for the first time at the end of 2024 as we head into the new year. that'll be always fun. I love the racing down there as well. To make sure you don't miss any of the stuff that we do, there is a bunch of links down, not links, but our social sites. The address is down there below. Horse Race the number 2 day for Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all of the above. Here on YouTube, while you're here, kindly hit that subscribe button. We're just a handful away from hitting the 6,000 milestone. So you be that 6,000 person by hitting subscribe, hit the bell, give us thumbs up, share our content. Any sort of interactivity helps boost our search engine optimization scores. And hopefully winning will bring you back, which also boosts our search engine optimization scores. And, well, we want to win the Hong Kong Cup to close out this week, Thomas. This time they're going to go 2,000 meters. You talked a little bit about that 2,000-meter race earlier on. It's a little bit more than one lap around the track. That quick early turn, Thomas, has to give my favorite front runner type some edge. No?
No.
I just love how Tom does that to me. Well, let's see who's going to get to that turn first. Well, it does look like Wingspan, the 11 horse, has a good shot, but most of the field wants to press up on that lead. So maybe a hot early pace favoring some closers. Tom, what say you?
Well, it's really hard to go past number 1, Romantic Warrior. It's won a few races, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
It's done it in Hong Kong, in Japan, in Australia, and all at the top level.
Could probably do it at Hawthorne too.
Yeah, I mean, it's run this distance 12 times and won 10 of them. He's got a 4th at Flemington when his first start was in Australia, and then he won the next start. So, I mean, he's just really good.
Mm-hmm.
He beat last year, ran this race and won it, and beat Luxembourg. And we talked about him. And he's had a little layoff, came back, and won again. You know, I went through him, and I tried to beat him. I don't see anybody as good as this one is right now.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's really, I'd like to say there's one or two in here that could do it, but it's a big, tall order. This horse has to really run a bad race, and it's got a good draw, so everything is really looking forward positive for the horse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with number 9, Liberty Island is my next choice. Her last race was her worst race. She showed speed and then dropped out and was behind badly. But she was coming in off a layoff. She'd been off 7 months after an injury. She did go off the favorite in that race, so that a lot of people did think she was good. She will. It'll be interesting to see if she's still interested in running, because that's one of my concerns with these types. They peak at a certain time and then they're not interested. The mares seem to be not interested anymore. But that's being said, she's run 3rd in Dubai behind Rebel's Romance. Well, we know how good he is. She ran 2nd to Equinox. That's a pretty good horse too.
Mm-hmm.
If she's returns to form, she's going to be tough. But I have some reservations. I'm going to finally take 4. That's Taste or Turia, I think. Any ideas?
Pastoria, I don't know. That would be my guess.
Okay. Ran 2nd last time at Tokyo behind Deuce. Deuce won the Japan Cup just recently, and it came from dead last to win it. This horse comes in off a layoff, has had mixed results before, but that last race was a good one, and against a horse that is very good.
Mm-hmm.
If it retains any kind of form, I think it's going to be a tough horse in here.
Mm. Well, they're all going to have to be tough, because I think, as you kind of put it, it's hard to argue that Romantic Warrior is not the best horse in this race. Something's probably going to have to go wrong somewhere for this one not to come home. And I think, like you, Tom, I try to find something to get past it I think your odds are going to be pretty low, maybe 2 to 5, 1 to 5, somewhere in that area. Number 4 and 5 kind of fit together for me, Tasteria and Caliph. When I was going through my numbers, I didn't really find much early speed in this race. So I'm going to pick the 4 and the 5 because I think those two are going to be forward early on. I don't know that they'll both stay there, but I'm expecting at least one of the two to stay in there and hang on for at least a piece at the end. And then Liberty Island, I like that one too, Thomas. I've just noted, you mentioned the horse kind of had a bad start and coming back off the layoff. I like to look at patterns. And a horse has a really crappy race coming off the layoff. I like to see if they respond the next time out. And I think you're going to see that this horse in the past has had crappy first ups. And then the second time out said, oh, I'm supposed to race. I think second race improvement is incoming for Liberty Island today. She will show that she's still interested in racing. So that wraps up all of our picks for Shot 10 this week. Again, leaning towards probably doing Australia next week. We'll let you know in all of our social sites what we plan on doing about a half an hour before we get started. Again, you see them down there all scrolling below. You can also get some free picks today and every day, guaranteed tip sheet, a link in the YouTube description, as well on Twitter or wherever else you find us, and on horseracingtoday.net, where we will post all of our picks, comments, and a replay of the show. Again, just a little while, we will timestamp every single race so you can come back and watch them individually, or you can watch the show from beginning to end, however it is that you like to do it. Thomas, always fun putting together some thoughts, picks. A lot of disagreement between us this week, more so than usual. That just kind of hints at how competitive these cars are, right?
Or how good these fields are. I mean, these are top-notch horses, and it's interesting to note because the Hong Kong contention is again a very strong bunch.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, no matter what Tom, do you have any final final wisdom to part with today? Because I can't get the thought from my brain to my mouth today.
I always like to say with Hong Kong, good luck, because these can be absolute, really tough races sometimes. They could be very formful like last week, or they could be absolutely all over the place. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the all over the place is kind of evidenced by the fact that you and I have very little agreement. Fortunately, between the two of us, we have a lot of coverage. That means either we're likely to be right one way or the other in most races when you have 50% of the fields between the two of us. And neither one of us has any other idea what the other one's going to pick till we get on the show. So
cool.
It's always interesting to see what Tom's comments are and mine and where we line up and where we don't.
Where we go in those directions.
Yosemite Sam, he went that way. All right, folks. Well, we appreciate you joining us today for this week at Hong Kong as well for Shot 10. We certainly look forward to getting together again next week for Parks. Probably Turfway again on Wednesday if they don't snow out, Aqueduct on Thursday, and then Australia on Friday. No matter what you're doing between now and the time we get back together again for any of that, we certainly hope you have God's grace, God's favor, and everything ends up in
the winner's enclosure.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic Hong Kong set of races.